Now available in paperback and e-readers, Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl. The aspiring angel takes on a wicked teenage witch in this action-packed, all-new Esteemed series adventure. Pick up your copy of Esteemed Season of the Witch Girl in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers today. Coming to paperback and e-readers, Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer. Take a trip into the macabre world of goth modeling in the new millennium in this all-new Spinsterella story. Pre-order your copy of Spinsterella Goth Girl Summer at Amazon.com and other online booksellers everywhere. Better get the coleslaw, y'all, because we're having us a barbecue. A 38-year-old man wound up losing his life on a southbound 5 train after having an argument with someone who stepped on his sneakers.
And that stabbing happened just before 9 this morning on a 5 train that was traveling through Manhattan.
Police say it all started with one man accidentally stepping on another man's shoes. It ended with the suspect stabbing the victim again at the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall Chambers Street station before running off. That victim later died at the hospital.
Eyewitness News reporter Janice Yu is live in Lower Manhattan with the details. Janice.
Well, Sandra and Lauren, authorities say this was not an unprovoked attack, and subway crime is the lowest it's been in 27 years. But when you talk to riders, and I talked to a few today, they all say they hear about violence like this far too often. When commuters pulled into the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall station Friday morning, they were greeted by a bloody scene, crime tape, and detectives.
It makes me feel unsafe, being in the subway is just so many people with mental disabilities, and it's just unsafe. I'd rather take the bus, to tell you the truth.
Authorities say 2 men got into an argument on a southbound 5 train around 8:40 a.m. after one stepped on the other's shoe. The person who stepped on the sneakers allegedly pulled out a knife and stabbed a 38-year-old man. Witnesses say the victim was being aggressive toward the suspect and also called him an anti-gay slur. The suspect left the train at Brooklyn Bridge City Hall station, but the 38-year-old followed him, at which point he was stabbed again on the platform.
This is sad, people have to ride the subway in fear like this, but it can happen to anyone at any time. God bless, I'm here, and it didn't happen to me.
The 38-year-old was rushed into an ambulance, but he later died at Bellevue Hospital. Meantime, the suspect was caught on cameras inside the train and on the platform, wearing all black, jeans, and black Beats headphones.
It's terrible. We need to step up security on the trains. We don't see enough police presence on the trains. I don't know what needs to be done, but that definitely needs to be done.
Authorities say the man who was killed has about 70 prior arrests. His last arrest was just in February for allegedly assaulting an officer at the 34th Street Penn Station. Again, the suspect in this stabbing is still on the run. Police are asking anyone with information to please contact them at 1-800-577-TIPS, Live in Lower Manhattan, Janice Yu, Channel 7, Eyewitness News.
Now, in this alleged incident that took place on a 5 train that was going downtown at 8:30 in the morning, 38-year-old John Sheldon, who came from Brooklyn, was riding the southbound 5 train, and as it was heading into Brooklyn Bridge City Hall train station near Center and Chambers Street, someone allegedly stepped on his sneakers, and as this person stepped on the sneakers, this is where John Sheldon got into an argument with this individual, and as they were exchanging words, an anti-gay slur was made, and this escalated this incident into a physical altercation where John Sheldon was stabbed in the fight, and after he was stabbed in the fight, he basically collapsed onto the subway platform of the Brooklyn Bridge City Hall train station where the train had opened, and the fight continued onto the platform. and after he collapsed on the platform, he was then taken up to a hospital, but sadly he wound up passing away. Now, after John Sheldon passed away, the suspect fled the scene and is now still on the run. And this entire incident on the subway, the NYPD are seeing it as an isolated incident. However, when I take a critical examination of the tragic altercation between John Sheldon and this individual, it's definitely fitting the pattern and profile for beta males that I talk about in my book, The Man Crisis. Now, when I was back in high school, back in the late 80s, I used to see a lot of guys really get upset when someone would do things like step on their sneakers and would look to escalate this into an altercation with that individual, and would want to escalate things into an altercation because when it came down to those young males, they had extremely low self-esteem, and they basically wore their self-esteem on their feet in the form of these very expensive sneakers, whether they be the Air Jordans I saw guys wearing in the late 80s, or even the Reebok pumps that came out in the early 90s. And because these guys basically wore their self-esteem on their feet, they went out here looking to keep their sneakers clean on riding on the train, and it just wasn't really logical, because when you go on a train and you're commuting at 8:30 in the morning, these trains are basically packed, and as they are packed, they are basically wall-to-wall people. So a lot of times when it came down to these situations, the teenage boys who would be wearing these sneakers, they would really get upset when someone would step on their sneakers and would look to escalate an altercation with someone who stepped on their sneakers, because basically they put all of their self-worth in these shoes more than their intangibles of manhood, such as their dignity, their self-respect, and their freedom, and even their life. And as a result of this led to many violent altercations, usually between many of the young black boys who would basically fight each other. Now, what I found to be quite interesting is that these young black males would never go out here if a white man or a white woman would step on their shoes and look to want to fight them, but they would look to go out here and fight this other individual over these shoes that basically they spent over $100 on. But the reason why they were spending that money on those shoes is, again, because these shoes were attachments they could use to get attention from people and look to impress girls with. But the whole thing is, it basically showed how little value they had in themselves as young boys growing up back then. And what's really sad is that we saw this with a 38-year-old man. Again, here's a 38-year-old man who was nearing 40, and he still got low self-esteem to the point where he's putting all of his value on his feet, and as he's putting his value on his feet, he basically brings his low self-esteem and ghetto mentality on this train. Now, when it comes down to this victim, John Sheldon, he really wasn't really a victim as related to life, because he had over 91 arrests. He had 91 arrests for doing things like trying to sell swipes for Metro cards and trying to harass people into buying these swipes. And when they said no, he would harass those individuals. And basically get arrested. And because of New York's extreme criminal justice system, where we have bail reform, this guy was in and out of jail, causing chaos, like many children of the corn, because many children of the corn, basically, they grow up like stalks. They grow up like stalks with no sort of structure, no sort of order. And because they have no sort of structure or order, what they do, because they have low self-esteem, is again put their self-esteem on their feet, and again when someone steps on those shoes, if they are a black person, not a white person, because when it comes down to these individuals, they won't get in the face of a white person, but they'll get in the face of a black person, because what they want to do is get power as related to that situation, get power and a sense of self-worth as related to, again, using these shoes as a way to use that to, again, get self-esteem, one, but also get a self-esteem by looking to harm another person. And that's what happened on that train on last Friday. Last Friday on that southbound 5 train, sadly, what happened is these males basically participated in this altercation because they wanted to go out and show who was going to be the man. But sadly, when it came down to both of these males, they were both men in crisis. Men in crisis because they didn't know how to navigate life as men, did not know how to function as men, because as those people were going to work on that train at 8:30 in the morning, these two Pookies were basically just wandering the streets, looking and dressing like children, because again, when you are 38 years old and you got on sneakers at 8:30 in the morning, when people are going to work in dress shirts, dress pants, dress shoes, and looking to be professional, these dudes are sitting here on a train, riding the train, trying to show off their kicks, which are basically attachments they use to get attention, and getting upset over these kicks that are basically, again, in 3 months, none of these dudes are gonna want to see, because they'll be creased, they'll be scuffed, or they will just be played out and they can't use them to get attention anymore. No, since they can't use them to get attention, they won't care about those shoes, but they cared about them at that moment where he wanted to act on his impulse to look to, again, get into it with this other black person, over these shoes that, again, have no real value outside of being an attachment he can use to go out here and get a compliment from some dudes in the street. The rest of the world could care less about these sneakers, but this guy cared about them to the point where he wound up starting an argument where he didn't value more important things like his freedom or his life. And that's the sad tragedy of this story, a story that I basically saw happen all the way back when I was a teenager, back in the 80s. I used to hear so many of these tragic stories and almost got into it with a guy when I was at Taft High School who was upset over these sneakers, not understanding that if you put these shoes on your feet, again, those shoes have no value outside of getting you from A to B. Yeah, people may like your shoes, but people who have self-esteem and self-worth, we understand that, again, yeah, we ride in the train. Again, when you ride in the train, you're going to be in a train filled with a lot of people. And again, there may be chances you might get your shoes stepped on. There may be chances you might wind up running into something that may scuff those shoes. But you understand that's just a part of life. And again, as you are wearing these shoes over a couple of months, they are going to get creased, they are going to get worn down. And again, you're not putting value on those shoes, because if you are somebody who is making money, you're like, nah, it's just a pair of shoes. It ain't really worth much. I mean, once I put the shoes on, they basically are like a new car, are going to depreciate in value. I mean, outside of making my outfit look nice, they basically going to depreciate in value. And if I'm a so-called baller, a $100 or $200 pair of shoes getting stepped on ain't really no problem, because like I've seen from guys like the Shoe Doc, who is on YouTube, there's ways of fixing those shoes. I mean, when I see him pump the foam and get in the zone, I've seen this guy restore just the most ruined kicks and bring them really back to life. And any seasoned sneakerhead knows out here, again, somebody stepping on your shoes ain't really a problem because there's ways of fixing those shoes. I mean, fixing those shoes with things like steaming the creases out, things like putting some paint on those shoes, because most of these shoes are dyed and painted. So you're not really going to get too upset. Yeah, you got your shoes stepped on, but getting the shoe back to being in top form ain't no problem for a true to the game sneakerhead. They ain't really getting too phased because, yeah, dude might have stepped on it, but the whole thing is there's more important things than getting upset about getting your shoes stepped on. No, in this life, there's more important things to focus on. I mean, there are things that a man has to focus on in these situations, because I've gotten my shoes stepped on many times. I mean, I remember when I bought the first pair of Adidas when I was in elementary school at CES 132, a couple of kids stepped on my shoes, and again, I didn't take it personally. No, because I understood there were more important things back then, and I understood, okay, it's just a pair of sneakers. And again, if I want to clean them up, I'll go get me some Sandy White. Back in the day, you go get you some Sandy White and again, clean up those shoes. But you don't really want to, again, put more important intangibles in jeopardy, because when you do that, you sacrifice your dignity. And again, your dignity is your sense of value about self. And you sacrifice that by saying that those shoes are worth more than you. And the whole thing is, you don't want to put yourself in a place like these two guys did, because they had no critical thinking skills, because all they thought was those sneakers had value. One guy possibly got jealous of the other guy, if that's the case, and stepped on those shoes. Or it could have just been, dudes is on a train, it's really crowded, and again, you just don't want to put yourself in jeopardy over some kicks that, again, in 3 to 6 months, you ain't even going to want to see them kicks. They're just going to be in a corner somewhere all creased up, and you're not really going to care about those kicks. But there are more important things a man got to think about as related to his life. He got to think about his freedom. He got to think about his life. And sadly, many of the black men out here, we don't think about those things. And again, it's sad that almost 35, 40 years later, since I was a teenager, you still got dudes out here, again, grown men, 38 years old. Again, a 38-year-old man getting upset over some sneakers. But this is what happens when you're a male who's stuck in a state of arrested development. Again, he was 38 as related to his body, but his mind was still in the mind of a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, because usually a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid is thinking, I gotta have the cool sneakers, I gotta have the clean sneakers, my kicks gotta be clean. Whereas when you get older, like I do, I mean, I've got a couple of pair of New Balance, and yeah, while I like having those New Balance and they look real nice with my outfits, I understand once I take those sneakers out the box and I put them on, there are chances, yeah, they're gonna get dirty, they're gonna get scuffed, and if I'm on something like a crowded bus or a crowded train, yeah, that may just happen. I mean, I have other shoes that, again, that are out here that I have. I mean, I have a lot of boots, the Chelsea boots, like I have a pair of Allen Edmonds and I have a pair of Brooks Brothers boots. And again, I understand that, again, if I take them out and I dress up, again, if I take them out there, yeah, they may get scuffed, but there's ways of fixing them up. I mean, there's shoe polish, there's all sorts of shoe creams, there's leather conditioners. I mean, nobody gets who understands money gets upset over getting their shoes stepped on, because they understand, again, shoes are supposed to take you from A to B, and what's more important is where you're going, not what you're wearing. It's about where you're going. And if you're going someplace and you're on your way to making some bread, you ain't worried about no pair of kicks. Now this guy, again, they said he was trying to sell swipes with Metro cards and stuff like that. So he didn't even understand anything about business, and he was harassing people because they would say no. Again, shows me that this beta male had no real understanding of what it meant to be a man, because, again, a seasoned guy who's from the streets, again, understands, okay, I'm here to make this money, get this bread, and once I get this bread, I'm on my way. But these guys, again, because they were males, they were caught up in their feelings, wearing their self-esteem on their feet, and that's all it took to trigger this whole tragic incident that took place on the train, where one man is dead and the other is on the run, and his face is all over the media, and it's just a matter of time before, sooner rather than later, they catch this dude. And after they catch this dude, he's basically going to get charged with either manslaughter or second-degree murder, and he's possibly going to be on a road from being free to be able to ride the trains to having to go out here and take a ride to Rikers Island. And if he's convicted based on the evidence, again, dude is going to be on a ride upstate to the penitentiary, where he won't be wearing any kicks. No, he'll be wearing plastic shoes that he basically will be trying to fight to keep from Bubba, Tiny, Roscoe, Big Dave, Melvin, and Mr. Sprinkles, because they try to take your shoes in the penitentiary. And again, he'll be fighting in there over those shoes, as they basically, again, trade him for the Little Debbie snack cakes, ramen noodles, packets of Crystal Light lemonade, packets of Crystal Light tea, off-brand lemon lime drink, off-brand grape drink, Keef coffee, Taster's Choice coffee, off-brand Oreo cookies, off-brand duplex cookies, off-brand vanilla cookies, off-brand vanilla wafers, off-brand lemon cookies, off-brand shortbread cookies, off-brand ginger snaps, off-brand vanilla wafers, Hunt's snack pack puddings, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle pies, prison chips, hot tamales, hot peppers, and pickles, and all sorts of items in the commissary. And basically, dude will eventually wound up getting turned out, as they basically wind up stuffing the front side and the back side with beef summer sausages. And Mr. Sprinkle's gonna come in and again come into him, spray him with special sauce, and then tell all the guys in Cell Block B to come in and check out this guy as he splits the cheeks open and shows this dude's backside looking like the inside of a Louisiana crunch cake. And that's when the other dude will basically rue the day that he got into it with this dude over a pair of sneakers, that he basically will not get a chance to get once he's inside of this penitentiary. No, you don't get no chances to wear any sort of fly gear as you're in this penitentiary, nor do you even have a chance to go out here and hustle, because you're basically inside of this penitentiary working for 10 cents an hour. Again, working for 10 cents an hour, hoping that you can save up enough pennies to go out here as related to your work to even buy those items in the commissary, if you don't have to, again, trade for them, and again, trade your dignity for them. That's what these guys really ain't thinking about, because again, they're stuck in a state of arrested development, where they basically don't know, are in a situation where they jam themselves as males and don't understand that this is not how a man operates. Because again, if a man is making money, he's not focused on the clothes, he's focused on where he's going in the clothes. He's focused on where he's going, because if I'm riding a train, I'm not just riding it just to be riding around to show out. No, you riding to get from A to B. And the whole thing is, as you get from A to B, you understand, okay, I can't get into it with dudes. This is something I learned way back in high school, and even before that in elementary school, that again, these sneakers ain't as important as where I want to go. The place I want to go is to get this diploma, and get where I wanted to go. That's what I learned back in high school, that again, it ain't about these sneakers or impressing these chicks. It's about me taking care of my business. And again, sadly, a lot of boys don't get that, because they don't have anybody to, again, teach them about their own self-worth as boys to grow up to become men. They don't teach them, hey, okay, dude stepped on your sneakers. Yeah, that may be a minor thing, as related to something that's an inconvenience. It's a minor inconvenience, and it's not something you escalate into a fight. You don't escalate that into a fight, because you have more important things that you need to focus on. You have more important things to focus on, such as your health, such as your safety, such as your freedom, and such as the direction of your life. These things have higher value than these sneakers that you will basically eventually wind up again in 3 months not wanting to see ever again. And again, 6 months later, they basically gonna be at the thrift store if you, in some cases, especially if you making some serious money. Them same kicks that you thought was fly when you first bought them, gonna be at the thrift store for baby about $8.99, or you gonna flip them on eBay. I mean, any guy out here who is smart gonna be like, look, this ain't worth me again losing my life for, because if I'm making real paper, I can go out here and get me another pair, because I understand that, again, if I can make the money to buy these shoes, I can go buy more shoes. But when you have low self-esteem, and when you say self-esteem on your feet, and you're desperate because you don't really make that much money, you put everything as of value on your feet, not understanding that you're putting everything of value on somebody else's brand. Again, somebody else's brand, and saying that their brand is worth more than you. And I saw this going on back when I was in high school, and it used to make me shake my head. You know, you putting Nike above you putting these sneakers above you, putting above more important things in your life. And again, this is what happens when boys are raised by females, because females value shoes because it's social currency, and not understand that for a man it's all about building wealth. And when you build wealth, you're not about investing in some shoes in order to get a compliment, because that's some feminine behavior. Masculine men, we're not looking for compliments. We're looking to build. We're looking to set and accomplish goals. We're looking to finish what we start. We're looking to be about where we're going. Again, when you have real money, like what they say a high value man has, you're thinking, oh, I'm about getting where I want to go. And if I've got on some nice shoes, okay, cool, I got on some nice shoes. And again, those same shoes, and that's why I say in 3 months you won't want to look at them, because they'll be in the clearance section. In the clearance section at about 30, 40, 50% off. And again, these dudes, again, they just thinking about what's right now and not thinking about later. And that's one of the most dangerous things about beta males, is they think about the now instead of the later, and act impulsively on what they think will be now. And that's what leads to these males, again, going on a train, not looking to go to work and not looking to take care of business, but looking to, again, try to be posing and look and flexing, again, like some females on a train. And again, this is how these males went from being men to both of them winding up on the road to becoming men in crisis. And this is the type of thing that, again, I saw growing up, and it's sad that for me to see this with a 38-year-old man, 91 plus arrests, and he, instead of looking to make his life better, wound up again on a road where he reaped what he sowed, greater than what he sowed, later than what he sowed, and wound up going from being a man to winding up being another tragic New York story of a guy who was in New York City who lost his life on these trains in a criminal incident that's very similar to the ones I saw back during the crack epidemic, and showed me how little things change for many of these guys who I believe are spellbound, again, looking to fit themselves in the black boxes that are acceptable to white people, and again, breathing brand new life into the stereotypes that make them fit the stereotypes that white racists want to see about black people. And again, what's really sad is he put his value on a pair of shoes, put his life on the line for a pair of shoes that only cost $4 in China that to be made. A pair of just $4 shoes that cost $4 in China. This guy put his life on the line for that, and it shows me how little black men regard their lives. I mean, sadly, it shows me how little they regard their lives, that they don't really think about the value of this life that God has given them to enjoy the abundance of life that Christ wants to give them. That's the whole sad part about a lot of these black males. They don't regard the abundance of life that Christ wants to give them. And instead of them learning to actualize themselves to become men of God, Sadly, what happens to these males is that they wind up on the road to becoming men in crisis. Now, if you want to learn how to identify the dysfunctional behavior of a beta male and help someone in your life break out of this pattern and become an actualized man of God, you can pick up my book, The Man Crisis, on Amazon.com in paperback and Kindle format. You can also find The Man Crisis at other online booksellers like Draft to Digital, Google Play, Barnes & Noble, and big box retailers like Walmart and Target. And hopefully this book will transform your life and help you break out of that cycle to become a functional man and hopefully move yourself ahead so that you can see more value in life than the shoes on your feet. Now, if you want to see me continue to make more videos about the entire man crisis, you can drop a donation to the Patreon, the PayPal, or the Cash App by clicking the links in the description box. That's all I have to say for this video. You can comment, rate, and subscribe. Now available in paperback and e-readers, John Haynes, A Thorn in My Side. The man who rules the world takes on an agent from the CIA from the Black Boule in this all-new John Haynes series adventure. Get your copy of John Haynes' A Thorn in My Side in paperback and e-readers at online booksellers everywhere. Now available in paperback and Kindle Unlimited, The Man Crisis. Learn why so many men are struggling to find their way in an increasingly gynocentric world in The Man Crisis. Get your copy of The Man Crisis in paperback and Kindle Unlimited today. Support Black-owned and Black-operated digital broadcast media. www.niceradionetwork.com. Nice Radio Network, broadcasting 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.